How are we all doing? My name's Nikki from the Creative Brief team, and I'm here to introduce the third and unfortunately final trend for the evening, so virtual reality. Now, according to Deloitte, 2016 is set to be the first billion-dollar year for virtual reality. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of talk in the industry, and many believe that this will be the make or break year for the platform. And one of the main reasons for this essentially is because a lot of the big technology companies are launching their devices this year. So we've already seen Oculus Rift, obviously owned by Facebook, launch earlier. HTC and their Vive device launched just last month. PlayStation is set to launch its device in October. And we think this is quite key because of that $1 billion, a large proportion of it will be coming from the gaming industry. And then there's Apple, so no one quite knows what they're up to. But they've been filing patents left, right, and centre and making some very strategic hires, so obviously something is happening there. So just to get a sense of your experience of virtual reality, so who has actually donned a headset and experienced that for themselves? Okay, so quite a few of you. And keep your hands up if you've actually started to create content for your brand or your client's business. Okay, so again, quite a high proportion. That's quite impressive. So we at Creative Brief have been tracking how brands have started to adopt this new technology, but I think there are still lots of questions. You know, things about the commercial reality behind it all. Is this something that brands should be adopting right now? And what is the right fit for their particular brand as well? So hopefully in the next 15 minutes or so, alongside our guest speakers, we hope to answer some of those questions. So, you know, the fantastic thing about virtual reality is the fact that you could essentially be transported to anywhere in the world, places that you might otherwise never get to visit, or essentially, you know, they might not even exist anymore. This is a fantastic application. It's the Everest virtual reality experience. I'd highly recommend you all to download it, have a play, perhaps not after a drink because it is quite terrifying, it's a little bit shaky, but definitely have a go at that one. And then Coachella, so really interesting example. Now earlier this year when it was the Coachella Festival, they introduced virtual reality into their marketing mix. And what I like about this example is they considered the before experience, the during experience, and then continuing the conversation after it was all over. So here, alongside your ticket in the post, you would also receive a link to download a specific application to access all of this virtual reality content. You'd receive a cardboard headset that you could view it through. And essentially, this gave you access to, you know, you could experience the grounds before you even got there. So you could plan where you wanted to pitch your tent. When you were there, you could watch behind-the-scenes footage and exclusive interviews. And then afterwards, you could share the experience with your friends. So a really well-thought-out process. And then, you know, one of the most important things, and this goes with any content, any communications you're creating for your brands, is that it must remain on brand. And we think this is a really strong example. So the North Face are transporting their customers from their shop floor to the likes of Yosemite National Park. So they can really immerse themselves in the terrain and imagine what it'd be like wearing those shoes or that jacket when they were there. And then Tom's, so again, another really interesting example here. Again, they've taken over a part of their retail store, which is quite interesting, and they're taking their customers on a journey, a storytelling journey, so they can experience where that other pair goes. And this, you know, it's interesting because virtual reality is an incredibly powerful and immersive medium where you have that headset on. It's a great way of building empathy with your customers and building that passion and connection to them. The Guardian 6x9 experience, I'm sure many of you played around with this when it launched a few weeks ago. This was actually created in collaboration with Google. I've got a video of it on the next slide just to give you a taster. But you can imagine if you have your headset on and this was combined with sort of, you know, other senses, so smells and sounds and things like that. It's an incredibly captivating and immersive experience. And this also questions the place for journalism within virtual reality as well. The New York Times is a huge player in this space, and if you're interested in virtual reality, I'd highly recommend checking out what they're up to. They have a whole content section on their website where they're uploading content on a weekly basis, essentially. This is one of the first projects they launched, so it's The Displaced, and it follows the lives of 3 children who were essentially displaced by war, so a touching story. And what I like about this is the launch strategy. So they sent out these Google Cardboard headsets to over 1 million of their at-home subscribers. So, you know, it's an incredible PR tool, and to get people talking and aware that the New York Times is creating all of this content, something we can learn from there. And we're also starting to see other media houses and owners start to collaborate with brands, the likes of Samsung and Viceland here. They're also enlisting the likes of kind of artists and sound technicians and museums to really test the possibilities of this platform. So people are starting to experiment with it. Now, I'm sure you'll have noticed that as we've been going through that presentation, there are a lot of people wearing headsets. And I think this is a really important thing to remember, that virtual reality can be an incredibly solitary experience. When you have that headset on, you can't necessarily engage with all the people around you, and it's something that's, you need to bear in mind. Now, one of the really key examples that kind of, takes this into account is Samsung with their Bedtime Stories app that was developed by BBH in London. And this enables parents who are perhaps, not in the same location to share those stories at bedtime. So it's bringing those couples together, which is fantastic. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce us to our final speakers for this evening. We have David Eriksson, Chief Creative Officer from North Kingdom, and André Lemasurier from Google, who are going to be sharing their thoughts on virtual reality. So over to you guys.
Almost there. I promise we'll be as quick as we can. We've got 15 minutes to talk about virtual reality, which could be about a 15-hour conversation if we're realistic with ourselves. So it was kind of hard to disseminate this down into 15 minutes, but we'll give it a good shot here. I'm Andre.
I'm David. I'm co-founder and Chief Creative of North Kingdom. Hands up if you've heard about. I kind of assume that you know Google, but maybe. Have you heard about North Kingdom? Hands up. Some of you have. Well, we're an experience design company. We're independent. We operate from our headquarters up north in Sweden, actually on the same latitude as Iceland, next to the polar circle. And we also have 2 offices in Stockholm and Los Angeles. So we're a team of about 60 people. And we help our clients create experiences, digital experiences that are meaningful and relevant. And in that space, VR is an emerging platform.
Great experience. I love working with you guys. So let's kick this off. So, what we wanted to do is, Nikki was chatting obviously about all the different work that's been done in the space already. There's a lot of amazing work that's been done by VRSE, all kinds of different people are creating amazing content. But what we wanted to do is kind of like step back and look at what's happened in the past. So how many of you remember what happened in the 90s with VR? Do you remember giant, massive headsets? And it was like the thing. Everybody wanted to get into the space, and then there's the movie.
Well, I mean, for me, it actually started before that, 1987, with the launch of William Gibson, the book series Neuromancer and Mona Lisa Overdrive. They talked about this strange cyberspace and virtual reality. And then this amazing movie came out in '92, and I hope all of you know about it. It's the Lawn Mower Man. You've heard about it?
Has anybody seen it?
Yeah, anyone seen it?
Yeah, you should watch it again. It's ridiculous.
Kind of
it's awesome. Yeah. So when we go back, if you spend some time in the 90s looking at some of that stuff, it's nostalgic and funny and interesting. One of the most interesting pieces that we found when we were doing some research for this talk was a gem that I'm about to show you. Does anybody here, I'm from Canada and the US, does anybody know Murder, She Wrote? Yeah? Watch this. This is... It's just a short clip, but they did an entire episode on it.
I feel as if I were inside Hastings Manor.
We don't call it virtual reality for nothing.
Welcome to the mind of the total paranormal.
I would have loved to have been in the room when they pitched that to Angela Lansbury, and they're like, so, I've got this amazing idea for you. She's like, what are you talking about? So, the 90s, obviously, for a lot of people, it held a lot of promise. They were like, this is the future. People were betting a lot of money on this. So what's changed now? Why should we believe now? And I think that the biggest reason that we could all start believing is these things that we hold in our pockets, right? The processing power and the things that these things can deliver when coupled with very easy to access, pieces like cardboard that's over there. So you guys can play with some of that later on. But the ability for these things to scale now and the distribution models that we've got, I think is going to allow us to continue to play in this space and build on the things that we're doing right now so it has a long-term vision and it's not going to die this time. On top of that, you've got, this is just a fraction obviously of the different companies that are playing in this space right now. You know, Nikki talked about $1 billion industry. I think the projection is by 2020, 70 billion, I read. Whether that's true or not, who knows? That remains to be seen. But some serious players in the space that are creating content, like all of you here, a lot of hands were raised before, and pushing every single day. So every week and every month, we see new and new content that's coming out, new technology that's pushing the space forward. And some of the work that we're doing right now that I can't talk about is really, really interesting and really exciting. So I think the future looks bright. So yeah, we are very excited. So like I said, doing some amazing things. What we want to do is kind of walk you guys through some of the work that we've been doing. We've got some case studies that we can hit play on here, showcase some learnings. There's rules along the way. Some of them you can't break, sickness being one of them. That's the one that we take very seriously. And that's especially attributable to cardboard because you shouldn't really be moving. We'll talk about a little bit more about that later. Scale and distribution is an issue. And my friend here in the North Kingdom came up with an awesome solution for distribution. Nikki was talking about there was a million different cardboards that were given out by the New York Times. So that scale and that distribution is something that's really important. And then the right time and place for a brand to play within VR. You have to really figure out where that is in the user journey and understand that it's at the top of the pyramid and that it's just part of a campaign ecosystem. And then once again, rules are there, but some rules are made to be broken unless you make me vomit. Don't make me vomit inside an experience. It's not something you want attributed to your brand. So the first piece that we're going to take you through is Mont Blanc. And this is a very simplistic experience, but I think that's the beauty of it. And what it does is it allows, and Google's all about access, obviously, it allows anybody, anywhere to climb Mont Blanc, which is a very significant and dangerous mountain. A lot of people think it isn't, and they try climbing it to their detriment. But I will stop talking and hit play so you can watch it.
Mont Blanc, a legend, iconic myth, the birthplace of alpinism, and the highest mountain in Western Europe. Climbing to the peak is a dream for many, with very few attempting the journey in their lifetime, and even fewer making it to the summit. Until now.
Bonjour les amis, my name is Patrick Gabarou. I am your high mountain guide on this journey up the Mont Blanc summit along the Goûter route.
Navigate up the 5 key stages along the famous Goûter route, using a timed crosshair to move between scenes. With layered audio tracks playing simultaneously.
Give me some slack!
Subtitles, immersive sound effects, and fun visual enhancements across French and English.
Wow, congratulations guys! You have made it to the summit, well done! And we are lucky today indeed. The weather is clear.
So a couple things to note with this. The 5 minutes and 24 seconds blew our minds. We were like, I thought it might be 2.5 minutes or something like that. 5:24, we were like, we had to check the numbers a few times. We're like, is that right? But I think that's attributable to several different things. We built this for web first and foremost. We didn't want to build an app that reduces creates barriers to entry, reduces the amount of people who are going to see it and play with it. One of the things we really wanted to do was just like keep it simple and guided. I think that's a good rule across the board for VR right now. Keep your experiences short, keep them simple and guided, and then storytelling as always matters. Tell interesting stories. So we got a real mountain guide who's the VO who walks you through it. He tells you really interesting things about the mountain as you're climbing it. He brings the mountain to life in ways that seem exciting and interesting and different, and then you meet other athletes along the way. So great storytelling is always key. And then distribution partners. We partnered up with a local magazine, Paris Match, which gave away 40,000, not 1 million. It would have been nice to get to that number, but we didn't. But that distribution really helped get them out there, and then just getting them into the hands of key opinion formers is also really key.
Right. I expect many sort of view agencies that are here today are getting approached by your clients, and clients are wondering what can we do with VR and how can we engage our audience with it. And for us, it's no different. That we've had, for example, we've had Disney that we've been working with on the project where Disney parks and resorts are trying to sell timeshare on Hawaii, like on the streets of windy Chicago. And they came to us and started thinking, how can we use VR to engage and really show for the audience or the customer how the Hawaii resort looks like? So how can we transport the user from the windy street of Chicago to the amazing environments that are on Hawaii? And that is one of the projects. Another one was McDonald's. When, I don't know if you know it, but McDonald's has centrally in the US, they identified VR as a sort of prioritized area to look at and engaging in their audience. And it just happened when we had discussions with McDonald's in the US that an opportunity arose in Sweden. A small project, but it was still an opportunity to try to explore where does VR sit within the McDonald's consumer journey. For us, it lands in that. Of course, you can create cool VR experiences, but in the end, it comes down to where does it sit within the consumer journey? Where is it meaningful and relevant for the audience? And well, I think you sort of understood the idea. If you've heard about the project, it's really about providing families a chance to immerse into VR. This was done through public holiday in Sweden in March, where all families go skiing. And at the skiing resort, in the McDonald's restaurants, the Happy Meal box transferred into a cardboard solution where you could experience VR and the game.
Say hello to Happy Goggles, a unique VR viewer made from an ordinary Happy Meal box. North Kingdom developed the first VR game, Slopestar, that was launched together with the Happy Goggles. Slopestars opened up the door to a world of fantasy, fun, and perhaps most importantly, how to ski safe in the slopes. In a joint design venture, DDB Stockholm, North Kingdom, and a bunch of kids designed and developed a full 360 degrees game that allowed the users to ski down an infinite slope just by turning their heads in different directions and keep focus on the track. For the users that didn't access any Happy Goggles, Slopestars could still be experienced and played in normal view. With lush 3D environments and funny characters, we brought the game to life and added another dimension to skiing that you simply can't find in the real slopes. The result became an amazing VR skiing game and tons of happy kids.
So I can tell you we know everything about greasy hamburger fingers. And, but as you see, the graphics is not that very complex, but it was important for us when we created this platform, not, like you said, make them download an app. So it's basically a web VR solution. For us, it was also thinking about VR, where can we actually introduce this? And this is after the hamburger meal. It's using the box and having fun, and it's something that you take with you from the restaurant and that you can sort of use for other VR experiences. Expanding from existing touch points, well, it is Happy Meal, it's a known concept, it's a very important one, and also use web platform as a point of departure, so to speak. McDonald's is integrating this, it's in their overall strategy, but really they want to think big and start small, so it's a project that they're learning from and they're thinking about the next step. In these kinds of projects, when you introduce a new technical platform, I would say it all comes down to testing. The game itself, the environment, it's a public environment. How do you make kids actually engage with VR? Yeah, that's basically it.
I love the distribution model that you guys use there. It's super smart. So the next project, we're running out of time here. I just got the 5 minutes like 2 minutes ago, so we'll go quick. I won't talk too much. Nikki was talking before about the, VR being a very solitary environment. It can also be a social connector. It can be an empathy machine to bring people together. So this is a piece that we did for Veterans Day. Get your tissues out.
On the 6th of November, I would have been 26 years in the Army. My current level of injury is T4, so I am paralyzed from my chest down.
I served in World War II, in the Korean War, and I've never been in the Veterans Day Parade.
I was never able to take a day off. It was something that I always wanted to do, be in the Veterans Day Parade, be in my parade.
And we're going to use virtual reality to bring the parade to VA hospitals all around the country. We got 360 degrees cameras on several floats, so while you're on the float, you guys can move around, look up, look down.
There you go. Just hold it up to your eyes.
Wow. Yep, I'm down there.
Bless America, my home, sweet home.
Oh, I was moving in that parade. It was just great seeing all these people moving there around me. It was a great show. And it was great that we were a part of it.
So what's touching with projects like that, obviously, is being there to see people react to feeling like they are there, which is remarkable. You don't get that very often. And that ability to create that immersive feeling of being in a place that they otherwise would never get to be is just, there's a lot of wow factor that's built into that. And that is, the amazing thing that I've noticed is everything from my 2-year-old daughter who puts on Mont Blanc or anything, who's running around bumping into walls and stuff like that, but she loves it, like she just gets totally immersed in it, to an 85 or 90-year-old veteran. They all have the same reactions to the experience, which is absolute immersion. And even on the far end of the spectrum, which is cardboard, we're not even talking Vive and an Oculus. You get to that stuff and it's like, you take the headset off and I think people are gonna get addicted to it. That's my personal thought on that. But real-time VR is magical. When you can connect people, I think like Coachella started going there, but that's a space that everybody's kind of moving into, and that's going to be magical as well. And then it being like a social connection engine and an empathy machine, those things and the power that's behind that is remarkable. One last piece, and then we'll shut her down. Good? Yeah, cool. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I won't talk, you just watch.
Yes, watch.
The future. epic.
So wouldn't do that.
Some people are like, is it too real, you know? Like, is it gonna freak people out? There's this whole, you know, there's all these chats going on around how real is too real? Am I in a space where there's, you know, monsters that are released? Is it gonna like, are people gonna have heart attacks and stuff? We'll see what happens. So as a parting shot, we've got a couple slides. I don't think we go into them. That 4D world, if you guys haven't read this book, Ready Player One, is an awesome book. Has anybody read it? Yeah, it's 2 people. It's a fantastic, 3 people. Sorry, awesome book. It's really great look into like the future, and I'm not saying that's what it's going to be, but easy read, and it gives you a mind-blowing look at what the future of virtual reality could be. That's it.